Hello everyone, Taufik here. Now getting a new job is always very exciting, whether it's your very first job or it might be your 10th job. A new job brings in a lot of excitement in our career. Now in order to get a new job, we generally need to follow two steps. The very first step is to basically apply for the job, share our resume and then get shortlisted. And the second step is to basically attend the interview and then clear the interview. Now in this video, I'm going to share with you my top 10 tips that you should definitely consider in order to give yourself the best chance to clear any interview. Now it does not matter whether you're giving a technical interview or a HR round of interview or a managerial round of interview. These tips should definitely help you in any sort of interviews. Now, before I can start, I would like to mention that all of these tips I have gathered from my own experience of working in the software development industry for almost 13 years, where I have been part of the interview panel and I have taken several interviews and I have given several interviews myself. So from my own experience, I have come up with all of these tips. Now, without wasting any more time, let's get started. Okay, so number one is your communication is the key. So when I say communication, it's not about being able to speak English fluently or having a fantastic accent. It's more about how clearly and precisely you can convey your message to the other person. Because whenever we are working, it's not just about doing a fantastic work, but it's also about how you can communicate your work with others. And that is why every interviewer will always have an eye on how well you can communicate. And if you are able to showcase that you have good communication skills, that definitely is going to add a big boost in your selection process. So definitely communication skills plays a big part in your selection process. Okay, so the second point is it's okay to not being able to answer some of the questions because not every interviewer is going to expect you to answer all the questions. So if you do not know an answer to a particular problem, then straight away tell them no. Try to be polite and humble, but don't try to drag this particular question for too long. Try to act as if you know the answer, you're just not able to remember it now and trying to drag it for too long. This kind of gives a bad impression about you with the interviewer. So if you do not know an answer to a particular problem, straight away tell them no, but try to be humble and polite. Generally, if you can answer 70% of the questions that have been asked during the interview, I believe you should be in pretty good state to clear the interview. So the bottom line is that it's okay to say no and it's okay to say I don't know during the interview. No one is going to straight away throw you out of the interview just because you said I don't know. Okay? Okay, so the third thing is always try to come up with some interesting questions for the interviewer. Now, generally at the end of the interviewer might ask, do you have any questions? Definitely do not waste this opportunity because this is the opportunity where you can of course ask some questions. The question might be about the company, about the project, about your role, about the growth in that role, etc. And secondly and more importantly, it's the time where you can interact with the interviewer. You can have a short chat, short discussion about any smart question. So if you ask the right question and if you interact properly with the interviewer, this is going to help you immensely because it kind of can leave a positive impression about you with the interviewer. So this can definitely help you to probably clear that interview round. So even if you have not done the interview fantastically well, but by asking the right question and then by having a right kind of conversation with the interviewer at the end of the interview, you might still be able to crack that interview. So definitely do not waste that opportunity. Okay, so the fourth thing is know what you have mentioned in your resume and understand the job description because most of the recruiters or interviewers will always refer to your resume when they're asking any question with you. So you should always be prepared to answer anything that may be mentioned on your resume and you should be able to explain that further from what is mentioned in your resume. That's the first thing. The second thing is try to read the job description multiple times and try to understand them properly because in a job description generally there might be, let's say, 10 different requirements or 10 different skills that is required, but there will always be, let's say, 1, 2 or 3 different skills or requirements which might be the most important for that role. So once you understand that, whenever you are talking about anything in the interview, you can try to stress on those 3 important points. So the interviewer will kind of know that out of all of these requirements, there are 2 or 3 things that is most importantly required for this particular role. And you have been talking about that a lot during the interviewer. So this will kind of leave a good impression about you with the interviewer. He or she will kind of know that the most important skill that is required for this role, you have some experience on that or you are aware of that. So that can kind of help you to basically be in a better position to clear that interview. Okay, so the point number 5 is try to be yourself, but try to be the best version of yourself. Now, try to always be honest when you are giving an interview. Do not try to imitate someone else, because if you try to imitate someone else and if you try to be completely someone else, and if you get the job, when you go for the job, the interviewer or the manager, whoever took your interview, they'll realize that the person who actually gave the interview and the person who actually is working are completely two different personalities. So don't try to do that. Try to be yourself, but as a person we can always be better version of ourselves, right? So imagine yourself to be the best version of yourself and try to take that best version of yourself for the interview. Okay, now before I can move on to point number 6, if you have not subscribed to my channel and if you are someone who is interested in learning SQL, Python and database concepts in the field of data science and data analytics, then definitely consider subscribing. Okay, now let's move on to point number 6. Now point number 6 is always be prepared with some of the standard interview questions like introduce yourself or some other. So generally when you start an interviewer, most of the time the standard question would be to introduce yourself. Sometimes the interviewer might just give you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself. So try to come prepared with some quick introduction about who you are, what you have done in the past, what is your education, what are your skill sets, etc. But sometimes the interviewer might ask you to give you a detailed explanation about who you are. So in that case, try to come up with a detailed explanation. Try to be prepared with these kind of answers where you need to explain everything that you have done in your career, all the major projects that you have been part of, all the skill sets that you have, what are the different things that you have done, your education, your family background, everything, right? So try to be prepared with these couple of questions. Along with this, couple of other questions that I think are pretty common in interviews is why are you looking for a new job? So try to come up with a reasonable answer for that. And also one more question would be like, what makes you a good fit for this particular role? So try to come up with some answers for these standard questions. Okay, so point number 7 is try to be confident even if you are not. Now there's a very famous saying that fake it until you make it. Now this is very true when it comes to your confidence, because not everyone is confident, but there is no harm in trying to look confident, right? Because the interviewer doesn't know you, so he doesn't know if you are a confident person or not. So there is no harm in you trying to act confident, right? So, and the best thing is if you try to act confident over a period of time, then gradually you will actually become confident. So there's no harm in that as well. So whenever you are answering any question, try to be confident with your answer. Don't try to be someone who is confused or who is not sure whether it's a right answer or a wrong answer. Try to be confident in whatever you say, whether it is like you can do this particular part of the job or not. Try to be confident in yes or no. Don't try to be both the ways, right? So try to appear confident, because generally if you can appear to be confident, then you kind of give yourself the best chance to have a positive impact on the interviewer. Okay, so the number 8 is listening skills matter, because it's not just about talking for continuously for the entire duration of the interview, but it's also about listening to what the interviewer is saying. Because in most of the roles, you might end up working with managers, with stakeholders, with clients, with partners, etc., where you will need to listen to them, right? You need to first listen to the problem, only then you need to provide the solution. And that is why your listening skills matter. During the interview, try to listen to what the interviewer is telling, try to understand the question, try to listen it properly, and only then try to answer. So listening skills definitely matter. Okay, so number 9 is be passionate about the job and showcase your passion during the interview. Okay, don't be that person who just comes to another interview. Maybe you have given tons of different interviews and you just come for another interview. Don't give such impression with the interviewer. Try to always leave an impression such that you are passionate about this role. So your role might require some particular skills. So try to show that passion towards that particular skill set. Try to show that you are interested in doing this kind of a job, because the interviewer should be convinced that you are actually interested in this work. You are actually interested in doing this kind of a role. You are actually interested in using this skill set to perform these activities during the role. So try to show that you're passionate about that job, and it's not just about the money, or it's not just about another interview for you, right? So try to showcase your passion towards this particular role or towards a particular skill set during the interview. So if you can showcase that passion that you have for this particular role, then definitely it's going to leave a positive mark on the interviewer. Okay, so the last tip that I have is try to avoid talking negative stuff about your previous company. So try to be an optimist person rather than a pessimist person. Try to focus on the positives and not on the negatives. So no matter how bad your previous company was, I'm sure there was something that you might have learned from them. But let's say you have not learned anything good from them, then at least you have some good lessons that you might have learned from your previous company. So try to be respectable towards your previous company. But let's say if your project was really bad, if you really had very bad time, then try to be open about it, but try to be respectable towards the company. Tell them that the culture was like this and this was not the culture that you wanted to continue in. Tell them that the project was something very bad, but this is not the kind of project that you wanted to continue your career with, and that is why you are moving out or something like that, right? But try to be respectable towards your previous company, because the interviewer doesn't know you, so he doesn't know if you're actually telling the truth. Okay, he might then think whether you're actually telling the truth, whether the company was actually bad or whether you were bad, right? So don't try to give that kind of impression to the interviewer. Try to be as much as positive as possible, right? Okay, so that's all guys. I hope you agree with these tips, and I hope these are going to help you to clear any interview. Now if you do not agree, or if let's say if you have some other tips that you wanted me to add, then definitely leave them in the comments below. I might try to add them in my blog. Okay, so thank you guys and see you soon in the next one. Bye.